Hello everybody and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. In today's video we're going to be focusing in on the 386 SX33 tower from 1992 that had been graciously donated to the channel. In my previous video on this computer we just did a general overview. If you haven't seen that video, please take a look. I'll also tag it at the end of this video as well. In today's video we're going to completely disassemble this computer. We're going to take apart every component and kind of do a general overview of the component and what made up this beautiful computer from 1992. And we're also going to do a thorough cleaning of the system itself as well. Now, I'm doing all that in preparation to work on the motherboard as well, because the computer itself is still having issues with the CMOS battery, the clock battery that's on the computer, and I'll show you that in this video. And you'll also see through the graces of what's already been done to this computer, you'll be able to see some of the bodge wiring that was done from the previous battery damage that was done to this computer. So it's going to be an interesting ride today. So let's get going. So what we'll do is we'll turn the computer around and just show you the back of the tower. Now I've already gone ahead and removed the screws from the back of the tower. There's 6 screws that hold on the case. Now, these computers, they all came in different shapes and sizes. From side panels that came off individually, where the top would stay affixed to the chassis. Now, this particular one just literally pops off just like that. There's a groove in the front that it kind of aligns into before you put your screws in. So let's go ahead and just remove that off the case. So, yeah, so let's turn this around and so everyone gets a look. One of the things I noticed about this computer is the power supply is quite dirty inside. Now I'm going to go ahead and again just work on getting all the components out today, do a general cleaning of the actual computer, and prepare us again for the work that has to be done moving forward. So let's go ahead and turn this around on its side. Just it's easier to work on the actual computer in this area like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see the computer itself as I work on them. Now I'll just go ahead and do a general overview. So you can see the computer is all nice and nestled in there. Now I've already previously had this system apart, so I'm going to so things should come apart fairly easily. And we shouldn't experience too many challenges with this computer. So one of the other things to note is the wires that all connect to the different IOs of the motherboard. So in here you'll see there's wires down inside here that plug into like status lights, hard drive status indicators, all the different types of indicators that are on the system. So it's important to take a picture of this if you don't already have a schematic of the motherboard, because otherwise you're going to do quite a bit of troubleshooting trying to get those back on. And if you can save yourself some time, just a recommendation to take a picture of the actual wires and how they're all plugged into this interface here, then it will save you some time. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just start taking apart the system component by component, just so we're in good shape as we go. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the bottom card. So the bottom card looks like it's the video card from what I see. And so just a Phillips screw, just take it apart here, and we'll set aside. I have my my mat here as well. It has little grooves in it. So sound card. It's very generic. There's nothing special about this at all. I mean, I do have other sound cards that I can actually put into this system that would be, that would be helpful. Specifically, like something like this, where you're probably all familiar with the Sound Blaster name, Creative Labs Sound Blaster. Again, I have several ISA cards that we can put in here to replace when we go ahead and rebuild the system. But for now, we'll just go ahead and take this and put this aside, and we'll see what else is in here. So again, that video card, now that that's out of the way, there we go. Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. That sound card was holding on to the bracket on this card and was holding it. So this is an Oak Technology OTI VGA card. So it is a basic VGA card, and I believe, I don't know exactly the memory that's on this computer, or sorry, on this video card. I never took to look that up, but this is from 1991, the chipset, the video card for this. It's just crazy to see how well it's working today. It fires right up. And I've done no work to this card because it has worked from the minute that I was using it. So we'll take our blessings on that. And it doesn't seem too dirty. Like I said, I had previously put this computer, taken this computer apart to get to the damage. But again, we'll just continue going here. So the next thing we're going to do, there's another card here. This is an I/O card specifically for game ports. So it has 15 pin D sub ports that are on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out just to kind of free up the space that's inside the tower. So that's how easily these cards should really come out. So again, just the struggle with those two cards that were being a little close together. So again, this is just a very generic 15 pin game port card. And it specifically says it's a game I/O interface for XT AT, which is what this case is, an AT 386 computer. And again, this is showing a date code of August 15th of 1992. That's just absolutely crazy. And from Future Tech Inc. So just a very generic card. Okay, so the next step, we're going to start removing the interface ribbon cables that are connected to this computer. I'm going to turn this around just a little bit more. That might give you guys a better angle. There we go. So back in the day, these computers all ran off of expansion cards. That's why it had so many ISA slots. So ISA is just the interface that this connects to, that this sits inside. So that connector on the motherboard is called an ISA card, or ISA interface. So back in the day, everything was done on cards. Not a lot was done on the actual motherboard. As the years went by, they started to have the interfaces built onto the motherboard, so you can just directly connect to those. So I'm going to go ahead and just start removing some of the power cables from the devices, just because we want to start freeing up the space. So these are called Molex connectors. That's the power interface. Even back, early days, they used that connection, and they kept pretty standard, which is nice. So you can have adapters and parts that you can replace today. So we're just going to go ahead and remove as many connections as we can here, just for the sake of getting access to where we need to go here. Okay, so yeah, that looks all done. We'll go to the CD-ROM drive here as well. Remove that. There we go, and we'll just put that aside. And it looks like there's a header cable or header power indicator, LED indicator here that's plugged into this board. So this board, as I mentioned, is the interface for the different components. And this specific board also runs the hard drive connectivity. The IDE port is on this card. So I'm going to, this wire actually tells the front of the case when the light's blinking red that it's activity light. It's accessing the hard drive, doing things. So it's all controlled by this board. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop that off. Again, very simple. I took pictures of all this prior, so putting it back together would be very simple. And then we're going to remove We'll go ahead and remove just the interfaces to the hard drive, which is right here, and then the CD-ROM drive as well, just so that we have full access here. And also the floppy drive, which is hiding up inside this bay up here. We're just going to remove that as well, just for easier access to remove things. Now, I'm going to cheat just a little bit. I mean, I can go ahead and take all the cables off and do all those wonderful things, but just because where I've already had this system out already, I think it'll be fairly simple to just take the card out in full, which will leave all the cables plugged in here. So now this card comes with two slots. So the top slot is just an additional connector, for running off of this I/O card for both the printer. Sorry, this is not the printer. This is the COM1 and COM2. So they are the you plug in your serial. Anything to do with serial would be plugged into those. So just go ahead and move that. Again, this is just a breakout bracket that comes off of that card. And then we're just going to go ahead and remove this other one as well. All right. Again, the screws are coming out pretty easily, just because I've already had this apart. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that out nice and easily. There we go. Again, there's nothing in there holding it. So, yeah, there we go. We have it out. It's looking a little more cleaner in there now. So yeah, there's the card, and this card is actually quite dirty. So I am going to take those cables off. I had thought that I had done, actually general cleanup on this, but I didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove these. Move those cables, and we'll just do an individual cleanup on those when it comes time. So this is the floppy drive connector right here on the board, and we'll also remove the IDE cable here as well from this card. Okay, that's all removed. Now we have our I/O card. This is our main controller board. So on the back of it does have another game port, even though we have a game card in it. Have a game port, so that's kind of redundant. I mean, you wouldn't really need to put that back in. I mean, we will, just because it's part of it. And then we also have our parallel port here for printing as well. So, and this card is made by Acer. There's no particular model. Again, just showing December of 1992 on it. Yeah, just really cool to see this. Oh, let's see, it shows Gold Star chipset on it, which is pretty cool. And again, just an Acer card. Okay, just gonna put this aside. Now that we have that, all that's remaining to remove from the actual motherboard connectivity is the power connectors that are right here. I'm just going to turn it around upside down just so you can see it there. So they're just sitting inside right here, and it's an AT power supply, AT power connectors on the board. And again, there's a special way that these go on, but I mean, we'll do that when we go to put them on the actual board again together. Okay. So I've gone ahead and removed the power supply cables from the motherboard itself. So now there's different ways you can work on this to get to what you need to do to get to the different components. Now, the nice thing about this case that I did notice is that on the other side of the case, the actual motherboard backplane that holds it into place in the chassis is actually screwed on with two screws right here. So I don't have to actually go inside the computer on the other side to do the work. I can actually just go in here and just remove it this way. And I think that'll save us quite a bit of effort and time to be able to access the actual motherboard itself. So it's pretty good. And again, all these screws are standard even today. So it's really cool to see that. I mean, this is a 386 computer. I've worked on many systems over the years, and it's just nice to have that universal type of screw to be used. Okay, so I'm just going to very gently tilt this out. Oh, sorry, one thing I forgot to do was just remove those wires I had talked about at the beginning. It seems that I really don't want to remove them. Maybe I'll be challenged on camera putting them back on. That's totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove that out. And there we are. We have the actual motherboard itself. This is I believe, it's a BioStar motherboard as well. Oh, let me just turn it around here to turn it upside right. And has an AMD BIOS, which we did see in our original. We have SIM memory here, which is expandable. Now, I did allude to in the last video that I have additional RAM that I was able to locate for this board. Now, I have not tested that RAM yet, so we're going to be testing that together when we put that in the computer. And then we have our ISA slots. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ISA slots for expansion. Now, I mean, 4 of those slots are already utilized by the cards, plus 1 extra for the breakout bracket that comes off of the main IO card. So that's that. And now see, so this is the keyboard port. So, I mean, most of you are probably used to seeing the PS2 or the USB ports that we have today. But this is the old DIN connector that is used for older type of keyboards that connect into here. Now, this has been replaced. I've gone ahead and replaced that already, just because This battery that's on here, which is known as a Varta barrel battery, unfortunately it leaked. It leaked all over. Due to the age, it leaked all over the motherboards. When I first got this computer, I took it apart immediately and saw that, and it had literally leaked the compound inside all over the different areas of the motherboard. Now, I had done a full cleanup of the board. Now, to do that, you have to neutralize the acid, the battery acid that comes out of there, and I do that with vinegar. Used my toothbrush and cleaned it all up. You could see all the reaction that it was neutralizing the effect of the future damage, and I was able to solder on a brand new keyboard connector as well as a new battery. Now, I don't recommend putting these batteries back in these computers, even though I did get a replacement. But unfortunately, the replacement's not working very well for whatever reason. So I don't know if there's a connector issue here or the battery just was bad from when I got it. So we're going to be, in our next video series, we're going to be replacing this battery, and we're going to put on a coin cell rechargeable battery, or not rechargeable, sorry, coin cell adapter connector onto this board. Now, the thing with these Varta batteries is that you can't just cut this off, install one of the coin cell holders onto the board, make sure it's positive, negative on the leads, pop it on there, solder it on, and put a battery in there, because it will literally explode the battery. These batteries are rechargeable, so the motherboard through the power supply, through the power rails on the board, are recharging this battery through in series. So you don't want that. And so what we'll do is we'll end up using one of these, but we're also going to end up putting a diode on the board, so that's going to prevent it from recharging. So it will just stop the charging from happening. So we're going to do that in a future video, but for now we're just going to go through just again continuing to disassemble this and take a look. Okay, spent a lot of time there just to really show everybody the beautiful motherboard out of this computer, the 386 computer from 1992. So I'm just going to put this aside for now, and we're going to go ahead and remove the motherboard. Actually, yeah, we have to remove the motherboard. Sorry, we're going to remove the motherboard from the back plane that it's holding on to it as well. So go ahead and just unscrew it. There's only a few screws that are holding it physically to the plane, back plane. It also has these plastic standoffs that are associated with it, and we just end up moving them side to side, and they'll just pop right off. So that just literally just slides out, and that's the way the case is designed. That's it, and that's yeah, it just goes in the case like that. That's crazy. Okay, so speaking of the damage that was done, you can see that we have some bodge wires here. So because the damage of the board was so significant through this area here, we had to trace back the connectivity onto the board. Now, back here, when you look at this, these are controlling the keyboard. It was mainly the keyboard that was damaged, the keyboard connector that was damaged from the damage. So we had to trace all the way back and going through all the board through a multimeter, and we were able to test continuity and see that it was broken. So by reconnecting these and putting a couple short bodge wires, we were able to clean it all up and get it going. Now, I mean, I could clean this up even more. You know, a lot of people like to run them nicely across the board and what have you, but at the time, that was just something that we had done quickly to see if this board was salvageable, and fortunately it was. So what we're going to do as well, I'm going to take my desoldering gun, and we're going to remove this battery, just because, I mean, this is just, we're not going to continue with this battery. We are going to move forward with the diode and replace it with the coin cell holder as well. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the desoldering gun, and we'll start removing that battery. All right, so we've gone ahead and set up the bench here to get ready for the rest of the work that needs to be completed for today. So we have the desoldering gun. I'll fire it up here, and we're going to just turn the board around and look at this battery specifically. So again, as I mentioned, it's a Varta barrel battery. I'm just going to desolder it from the board and not use it any longer. So let's just make sure. So the two contacts that I'm seeing, the positive is right here, and the negatives right there as well. So you can see that on camera though. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take my desoldering gun and get this all cleaned up here. There's quite a bit of solder around that area. There we go. You can see how easy it is to remove this with the soldering gun. It's just crazy. Before I had it, like I said, I couldn't believe that I was even doing it without. Okay, so I have the barrel battery out now. Unfortunately, one of the things I had done when I first did this, when I first removed the battery due to the damage, it had eaten away the connectivity in the pad as well, and it was very unfortunate because that might be causing part of my recharging issue or whatever. So I just want to, I am going to do a little more investigation around here just to make sure that it's all cleaned up and good to go. But yeah, just I didn't have the desoldering gun at the time, but hey, we're going to make this work. Now if it's not charging, now that is the negative, so it is ground that has the most damage. The positive side of it looks really good. So I mean, what we could do is, I mean, essentially this entire board is the ground plane. All this yellowish color is the ground plane. So we could scrape off part of the PCB here to expose it and connect to ground there. But again, we'll just do some continuity tests and things like that too when we go to that stage and make sure that it's good to go. All right, so that's off there now, off the motherboard. So I mean, there's obviously no damage to this battery. I just put it in a year ago, and again, just there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. Just a bunch of little cells that are put together, but unfortunately, they are known to leak. It's 3.6 volts. Is the charge of this. Now we'll be putting in a 3 volt battery here. Yeah, so I'm just looking at this here. It'll be a slightly different voltage, but that's okay. It's within the margin of error for this board, and they use so little power. It's crazy to keep the clock battery going. So that'll be totally fine. Okay, so I think the next step, what we'll do is, now that we've gone ahead and removed that from the motherboard, that we won't be using it again, we're going to go ahead and clean up a little bit of the board again. So I mean, there's a little bit of dust here and there. Now I did do a lot of cleanup on the board. I used isopropyl alcohol that we've seen in the last video, and some toothbrush and stuff like that. But I do have, since then, I do have the anti-static brushes here as well. So we're just going to give it a quick rundown here just to make sure there's nothing on here. Now I do see a bit of around the original solder area, I do see a bit of flux that seems to be on the board from when the soldering was completed. So I'm going to just going to take the toothbrush out and do a little spray on that and do a cleanup as well on that, just because I just want to make sure there's no remnants of that on the board. And again, just the convenient thing about this is just it's a spray bottle, and so it just allows me to do that. So we're just going to do a quick scrub here just to make sure that there's no residue left on the board. I mean, it won't hurt it. It's just good to, do a proper cleanup on the area when you're done. And again, I was not hopeful that this board was coming back to life with some of the damage that I had seen on it, and but I was fortunate in the end that we were able to get it going. Okay. All right, gone ahead and done that, and yeah, it looks really good now. So that's really good. All right, and so on the other side of the board, we have where the battery would be. Now it does have an external battery connector, so that's another option you can use. There's a 4-pin header you can use, similar to these connectors on the board over in the case, and you can actually plug an external battery. So you can cut that off completely, connect your external battery using a dongle with a coin cell attached to it, and you call it a day. You don't have to work with a diode or anything. So I mean, that might be an option as well. We'll see how this shapes up and how we go through it. I'm leaving the RAM seated in the board just because there's no reason to remove it right now. I've already tested all this memory. They're 1 megabyte chips, and they have all been tested, and we know that they all work fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do this. And just do a general cleanup. I know there's a little bit of dust that was left on it, but again, I did a thorough job cleaning this. The cards I didn't really touch, and so we're going to do that together as well. But that looks pretty darn good as well. So what we're going to do is put in a contact cleaner in here, just because I know that they were kind of kind of rough getting it out of the slots. So I just want to make sure that any sort of debris, dust, anything like that is out of the ISA slots here. So hopefully everyone can see what I'm doing here. So this is just automotive contact cleaner, which is designed for any electronics. I have tested this many times. It works great. Yeah, it definitely does a nice job. Okay, so I have all that on there, and so that should be cleaning out all the slots for us. So yeah, we're in a good shape. We're in good shape with that. So we're going to put the motherboard aside for a moment, and then we'll pick up the video card. And so this video card is the, as we mentioned, the Oak Technology video card. And I believe this has 1 megabyte of RAM on it, if I do remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure. Let's turn it on. I'm just not familiar enough with the RAM on board that's on here. If you clearly can let me know in the comments how you were able to determine that, that would be wonderful, and I'm happy to learn from everybody as well. Okay, so go ahead and just do a cleanup of the board here. Just going to do a quick anti-static run here to get any sort of dust and dirt and grime off the board, or sorry, yeah, off the PCB of the video card. And just the age of the technology, and we're still able to work. Now I'm just going to give it a little bit of a isopropyl alcohol bath just to clean up any sort of remaining dust that might be sitting inside here. This doesn't hurt anything by doing this. It dissipates really quickly, and just gives it a medium for the dirt to be washed away there as well, just because I want to make sure they're nice and clean for when it goes back into the case. Okay, just do that now. And we're also going to clean up the front shield here as well, just to make sure we're good to go. And yeah, I mean, this looks really good. I mean, the card edge itself, all the nice gold teeth on there on the card looks really good. There's nothing on there that would give me any alarm or pause. And I mean, we know we have the system running, but it's always good to be preventative and go back into it just to be absolutely sure that you have all your components all nice and clean. So here's the game card that I feel is totally redundant now that I noticed that it has a game port on the I/O card as well. But hey, redundancy, you have an extra card, why not? It was put in there for a reason, so we're going to continue on with that same mentality that we're good to go. And it's different coloring than the rest of the board and the age of the components. So even though it was installed in 1992, actually before the computer was built, it's still, I mean, it'd still be a useful card if you wanted to have multiplayer or whatever, or if you didn't want to use a Breako cable to do that. So, I mean, the card looks really good, actually. It doesn't look very dusty at all, so I must have either cleaned it or it was put in when I had moved it around. I had taken most of the dust off, so let's just go ahead and keep on doing this. Why not? And we're just going to do a quick isopropyl alcohol bath on that and do a quick run. And I'm being very gentle around the components. Like, I'm not putting any pressure on this when I'm doing this. It's just, as soon as I feel resistance, I just kind of pass over it. I don't want to bend any of the capacitors that are on here or any of the diodes that are running through it. I don't want to do any damage to the card by doing this. And again, the card edge looks really, really, really good. There'd be no reason why it wouldn't detect the card. And yeah, that looks really, really good. And I'm just going to do a quick cleanup of the outside, and there we go. And you can see the alcohol is already dissipating from the board. It just gives you the cleaner look, and then it removes any chance of any sort of thermal buildup from the dust. Now this beautiful, amazing sound card. Again, I mean, you can run. It looks like there's a cable that you can run an IDE cable off of this as well. I'm not sure we're going to use this when we go ahead and rebuild the computer, to be honest. I think we're going to end up probably using a Sound Blaster card of the Air. I'm just going to have to locate one when we go ahead and do that. But yeah, we'll just, for the sake of having the card, still a piece of the technology. And I know that I always said in my other videos that I like to keep everything original to the tower when I received it. Now it could come with upgrades in it, but I leave it as the way I received it. But this might be the one exception to the rule, because I don't know what drivers there are. I know the sound wasn't working in the computer when I had received it. Again, I didn't do a whole lot of troubleshooting, but I feel for compatibility for drivers and for the operating system, going with a known sound card like a Creative Labs Sound Blaster 16 might be preferable to what we're going to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and just spray that as well. Just do a little cleanup on it and get the dust off. I may as well do that, and be good. Yeah, no, it looks. I mean, it looks generally good anyway. There's not much to the card, just outside of the one port on the back and the jumpers here that are set that are for telling the computer what hardware resources to use within the system on the motherboard to address this. So, I mean, it looks good for what it is. Okay, that's all good, and we'll take our other card here that has our game port and our parallel card. This is our main I/O card where our motherboard, where our hard drive was plugged in, our IDE cable, our floppy drive, our two COM ports were plugged in there as well, and all the wonderful jumper settings that tell the computer what resources to use. I'm not going to remove any of these. I'm not going to change any of the configuration. We're going to leave it as is. When we go ahead and reinstall Windows on this computer in a future video, we will go ahead and use all the resources that are on this. I mean, the cards today, newer technology today, they're all plug-and-play cards. These are designed you're telling the computer where you want it to sit in the hardware addressing. Same thing with all the other cards. Of course, that technology changed over the years as we advanced, but there were chips installed that would tell the computer, I'm using this, or use the next logical through plug and play. Use the next logical hardware that's available. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just dust this off. This card's a little dustier than yeah, you may not see it on camera, but there's definitely dust coming off of this card. And mainly because I probably didn't remove those ribbon cables last time that we had this all apart. So I'm just going ahead and doing that here. And yeah, it's definitely dusty. And we'll go ahead and just continue. Just go to my back here. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing again. We'll take the alcohol and spray the back on the front there. And yeah, just clean up the chips a little cleaner now for sure. And the dust, I mean, you may look at it and say, oh, it's not very dirty computer. My computer's really dirty at home. Well, dust builds up on these PCBs, on the cards, and unfortunately they create a thermal barrier. So they end up heating up the card, and you end up losing some of the life out of the chipset that are on there. You could potentially other issues that can occur. So it's just good to do a quick cleanup of your system once in a while. Now, I'm not suggesting you do it at your own risk, of course. You open up your tower, you're using your vacuum cleaner and doing whatever you're going to do to it. But I wouldn't recommend necessarily, sticking your vacuum in there on high force and jumping in there. There's special types of vacuums that you can get for electronics. Again, only if you're really interested in doing that, or take it to your professional that works on your computer, that they can do that work for you if it gets to that point. Oh, I don't want to remove the marker from that, so I'm going to go around that because I was starting to remove the date code of 1992, and that's original to the computer, so I'm leaving that on there. And yeah, it looks really nice and clean now. It's really good to see all that dust off of there, and the alcohol's all starting to dissipate now. So between the removal with the brush and then just do a nice little isopropyl alcohol bath on that, that's really good. All right, so those are the components that we did. I mean, this is the back plane for the computer. Now, I mean, there's a little bit of dust on it, but not really anything on this, because again, when I had this all out, I had taken it and cleaned it up a little bit. Definitely some dust down here, so we'll get that all cleaned out as well. Yeah, you can see little dust bunnies that weren't invited to the party. Okay, that seems to be all pretty good here. So I'm just going to set that aside for what we're trying to do here. And we'll take the tower next. And we're going to start taking that apart and getting all the components cleaned up in that as well. Okay, so we're all set up here with our just our towers. What's left? We have our power supply. We have our floppy drive that's up here. We have our CD-ROM drive, the HP CD-ROM drive that would have been an upgrade to this computer at one point. And then we have our Western Digital Caviar 280. This is the 85 megabyte IDE hard drive. Now, I'm not going to replace the drive at this moment or do a lot of work on it. I'm leaving it in place. I don't want to jostle it around any more than it has to be. And to be honest with you, it just started making noises. You couldn't hear it on video, but I definitely did on my side that it wasn't using before. And unfortunately, I'm nervous that it is on its way out. So, I mean, we'll use it obviously to do what we need to do, install what have you, and I'm hoping to get more life out of it. But I'm going to again just keep it in the system. So I'm just going ahead and just clean out some dust bunnies down here that we want to get rid of, and clean this for just so there's a lot of air that moves through here through the fan. In the power supply. Back then, that's how the air went through. I mean, there's you can see quite a bit of gunk in the back of that, which we'll get. But I'm just getting the bottom out here, and yeah, there's not much. Now, one of the things I noticed is a little bit of dust here in the inlets for the power supply. Just go ahead and take this, clean it out as well, and yeah, there we go. Oh, it looks good. Definitely took a lot out of that as well. All right. And here we go. We have the computer all out on the operating table for the 386SX33 computer. We were able to take everything apart. We were able to clean the inside. We were able to clean the actual components themselves, just to get them all kind of ready. We removed the Barta battery from the actual motherboard itself, and we were able to show the work that was already previously done. So next time we're together, we're going to be working on getting the coin cell installed, whether it's going to be through the diode trick or using the external battery header. Haven't decided that just yet. But yeah, that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have a comment or any feedback on the work done today, or any questions about any of the board, or if you want to see additional content like this, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Definitely love the engagement. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. You'll be notified of any new content that I'm releasing. And again, thank you for spending the time with me today, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.